With tomorrow, January 9th, having been declared a national day of mourning for President Jimmy Carter, 39th President of the United States, who died at the age of 100, I wanted to do something for the midweek poetry break to connect to that. And I found two poems that I'm going to read, one about President Carter and one by him. So the first is by James Whitehead. It was published in the New England Review of Books in the summer of 1981 with this note. When Jimmy Carter returned to his home in Plains, Georgia, following his term of office, he invited poets Miller Williams and James Whitehead, as well as their friend and his, country singer Tom T. Hall, to the reception. "I was read into office by a poet," said the president, "and now I'll be read out of it by poets." Mr. Williams and Mr. Whitehead both report their delight to have discovered Jimmy Carter's knowledge of and affection for poetry. Their own occasional poems are offered both for the record and for their inherent excellence. And I'm going to read James Whitehead's poem, which is titled "For President Jimmy Carter on His Homecoming." People in history began to say, "You were a steward of the earth and cared for human dignity and knew the dread of the awful power that would take away the good sense of a day of work and take away the night for rest and pleasure. They have begun to recognize and measure how carefully you watched the hours strike into the future where we live and die. How carefully you were responsible and seemed, of course, to be astonished by a world outrageous in its vanity, world unsurprised by greed so terrible it would desire the full catastrophe. People in history began to say, it's clear you love the earth. Day in, day out, so much you catch your breath to imagine how the death might take the possibility of love away. Thank you, sir. I've nothing more to say." That's a poem by James Whitehead to President Carter. The next is a poem by President Carter, who loved poetry and published his own book of poetry under the mentorship of Miller Williams and James Whitehead. It's called Rosalind. She'd smile, and birds would feel that they no longer had to sing, or it may be I failed to hear their song. Within a crowd, I'd hope her glance might be for me, but I knew that she was shy and wished to be alone. I'd pay to sit behind her, blind to what was on the screen, and watch the image flicker upon her hair. I'd glow when her diminished voice would clear my muddled thoughts like lightning flashing in a gloomy sky. The nothing in my soul with her aloof was changed to foolish fullness when she came to be with me. With shyness gone and hair caressed with gray, her smile still makes the birds forget to sing and me to hear their song. And that's Rosalind by President Jimmy Carter for the Midweek Poetry Break.